a thumping win for Chelsea at West Ham. 2 for Nico Jackson, 1 for Cole Palmer. Alongside Janusz Michallik, I want to ask you, first of all, is the story here how bad West Ham were, or is the story here Chelsea away from home just can't stop scoring?
Yeah, I hate to say it both, right? That's what we normally do. But no, but let's concentrate on Chelsea because it's been super, right? I mean, how long have we now been so negative on Chelsea Football Club for many reasons, and most importantly, the reasons of the pitch, and that's why I respect what Enzo Maresca has done so far, because he's put away the noise. There's certain stability now about this team, even if it's just results. I mean, it hasn't been perfect. Let's face it. Last week it wasn't a great game away to Bournemouth, but they got the win. Today was decisive. I suppose there's always moments in the game where I felt that maybe a little bit earlier Chelsea could have gone after West Ham when it was 2-0. Mark, remember that time? There was a spell where they kind of almost looked satisfied, but that protective bubble that Enzo Maresca has somehow put around the team, where that noise has gone away and the results came in. I think it's very, very important. We have to give credit to him and Chelsea for that. I always felt that we as journalists or everybody else spend way too much time analyzing what happens off the pitch. And unfortunately, managers don't have the ability to do that. So with such a big squad, he's figured a way to stabilize this team right now. And, you can say all you want, but they're second in the table right now with some key players starting to perform at a good level.
We've seen the good Nico Jackson in the past. We've seen the bad Nico Jackson in the past. Did we see the clinical Nico Jackson today?
That's exactly the word. I mean, he was very, very clinical. I mean, 2 goals and an assist. On the counter where West Ham obviously opened up for them. So I think that's a function of everything that I just said before. I think as players, you need that little bit of quiet. You need that period of time where things are going your way. It feels, at least for me, that now for like 2 or 3 years, things haven't been going right for Chelsea, no matter what. Yes, towards the end of last season, I think we saw under Mauricio Pochettino, maybe Chelsea coming good. With the change of a manager, we wonder what's going to happen with that. Certainly losing in the opener at home to Manchester City didn't help, but it is Manchester City. So the response from Chelsea has been superb.
Are Chelsea better suited to games like that against teams that they're better than, but they're away from home, and the onus is kind of on the home team to maybe come forward a little bit more than they might if they were to go to Stamford Bridge?
It helps. It helps. But I think you could say that a lot of top teams, right? Sure. I mean, they always know that for the most part, because they're big teams with a lot of quality and talent, you feel that the opponents are going to sit back and you have to solve that puzzle. That's so hard to do, right? So I think, yes, with the pace of, we saw that in the second half, especially that third goal with Cole Palmer, who was quiet otherwise, right? I mean, started to play, started to feel the game, that overlap and run, and, a couple of other occasions where, even Madueke, who wasn't spectacular today by any means, but shown glimpses this season as well. That's sort of his game as well. I think it'll be Jadon Sancho's game. Not a great game once again, but contributed, second game in a row with an assist. So, yeah, I can see that. But I think Chelsea will also have to show that they can do this when teams are sitting back as well. So balance is always needed. Let's just wait. But as I've said before, this is the time to give credit to Enzo Maresca, because the job that he's had, you almost feel like it was impossible with all the changes, all the players that he's had ahead of the season, all the doubters, and this will come back, Mark. You know how football is, not because of Maresca, not because of Chelsea. It's a tough league, and so the doubts will come back. But at the moment, what a start to the season.
So the second goal for Chelsea, it's the through ball from Caicedo. It probably doesn't happen last year with Declan Rice in there. They've lost a massive player in Declan Rice, understandably so. But they haven't replaced that kind of pace and that tenacity, and they looked sluggish in there. But Nico Jackson still got to do his job. He did. Then, about 6 or 7 minutes later, personally, I thought West Ham should have had a penalty. The referee said no. VAR said no because it was only, quote, fleeting contact. I thought the referee got that one wrong by not giving a spot kick.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's an absolute penalty, right? I mean, look, if Somerville, tried as hard uh, to stay up as he did to go down, I suppose you can always go both ways on this one. Maybe it's a time limit thing, right? And I saw at least 3 seconds there. I don't know. Joking a little bit here, but look, I think that in that case, Fofana was beaten all ends up and he looked absolutely guilty. And when you're beaten like this and you hold on to the player, for me, it's always a penalty there. So I didn't understand that. I know they're talking about higher bar, but higher bar on that. You're beaten, you a couple yards behind, you clearly in desperation hold on to the hand of the opponent. If that's not a penalty, what is really?
I think what's happening here is they're maybe trying to put more onus on the referee to get the decision right in the first instance and not to be kind of rescued by VAR, because we've seen now that the bar is set by VAR in that it has to be a clear and obvious error. So if that's given as a penalty, there's no way it's overturned, because it probably is. But the fact the referee doesn't give it, and the fleeting comment that was used by VAR, the commentators mentioned that in the game. The referees have to be better. VAR is there as a kind of a safety valve. Referees have to be better, and referees have to notice that.
I don't buy into it. No, for me, VAR is there to, the game is tough. I'm not necessarily putting this on the referee or referees in general. It happens so quickly. I don't know how they see some of the things, even when they make the decisions right. So I think in this situation, VAR needs to step in and again, they want the game to go quickly. I still think, hey, let the referee have a look. They don't seem to want to do that. Other leagues still do. I don't get it. So for me, it's a penalty.
Me too.
As long as I'll be saying the same thing over and over and over again. The clear and obvious is an absolute nonsense, right?
Agreed.
So for as long as that's in the game, I'm not going to change my stance, and I'll say the same things. I'm not saying that I'm always going to be right or that I am right, but I think VAR's role should be more incisive.
Yep, I'm totally on the same page. I was just trying to play devil's advocate and try and get a bite from you, but you weren't for it. So 3-0 for Chelsea shortly after the second half got underway, and I mean, they could have had many more. This time it was Jackson playing in Cole Palmer. But a kind of bigger picture here, because they made like 4 changes in the space of 7 minutes. So Disasi, Neto, and Kunku and Felix came on for Fofana, Sancho, Nico Jackson, and Cole Palmer after the third goal. You're looking at players now maybe getting an hour, 65 minutes or so. Is that the way that Enzo Maresca keeps a big squad relatively happy?
Well, yes, and I mean it just tells you everything about the game when your 2 best players go off in the, what is it, 63rd or 64th minute, right? Nico Jackson, who's sitting on a hat trick, and Cole Palmer, who just started to play well, right? But obviously, when I say big players or best players, I'm not just saying in this game. As I mentioned, Palmer was a bit quiet in the first half, so it tells you everything. And I think they're still nursing Christopher Nkunku. He's still going to have to, at this moment, he's fighting for a spot in that starting 11, although I think we all know what he's capable of. But I think the team is winning right now, and there's probably no reason to change that. The time will come, of course, in all the competitions, and it's an easy game. We'll get to West Ham probably a little bit, but, you could afford to make some of these changes. Look at Chelsea midfield. Finally, we can talk about them being superb. Caicedo more so, I suppose, than Enzo Fernandez. But you're doing things right when West Ham early in the first half withdraws Guido Rodriguez, and after that Alvarez. So you two holding midfielders are off. That tells you how well Chelsea played in the center of the pitch.
Do you know what happened in the 62nd minute of this match?
What did? Substitutions.
You put out a tweet. I'm going to read what your tweet is, and we're going to discuss it because it's now time to get to West Ham. This is when it's not good listening for West Ham supporters. However, this is what Janusz put out. He said, Lopetegui's body language, terrible. And it was. So they've got a new manager. They've got better players. Have they improved?
No. I mean, look, West Ham have spent a lot of money. And if you look at Lopetegui, look, I made that tweet as a former player. And the reason I also did that, I often don't do it because, I mean, body language is one thing, but it was more than body language because we could actually hear what he was saying to the players. Remember early in the first half, because the crowd was so quiet because West Ham were terrible, and 18 minutes in they were losing 2-0, where there was a lot of focus from the cameras on Lopetegui, and not just the body language, but what he was saying. And maybe he was right. I'm not saying that because West Ham weren't playing well, but just the things he was saying to Guido Rodriguez, I knew he wasn't going to last long. Even Wan-Bissaka and all the players. I mean, almost coaching play by play, and I'm not a fan of that type of coaching anyway. So it's not just Lopetegui, but in terms of Lopetegui, it's the worst that player would want, especially when you're playing on that side. Just constant telling you before the ball even comes what to do with the ball, where to go, where to show, where to drop, all of that. I mean, it's difficult as it is, and I know there are managers like that. I'm not saying that one's better than the other. Every player reacts differently, but that was just absolutely awful because at that time you could tell already down 2-0. The players obviously not happy. They understood they weren't playing well. So instead of building the players up, I watched and actually listened to what he was saying. He was tearing the players down, and that wasn't going to be helpful. And look, I mean, of course, players bear responsibility, but also the manager. Look at West Ham. First goal at home, 4th minute, right? Had his time to say his piece with the players at halftime. Third goal, a minute and a half in the second half. So again, easy to put this down to lack of concentration. I'm sure that Lopetegui was telling the players that they absolutely cannot concede a third goal early. So again, I'm not just saying it's his fault, but things haven't been looking bad. I know it's who they lose to at home. I mean, some big games, Villa, Man City, and now Chelsea. But don't you think that you get up for matches like that at home? To lose 3 home games right now, it's incredible. I mean, with everything that I said right now, after all the money that has spent, he's the leader in the sack race for me, Lopetegui.
I'm not talking out of turn here, but I was down in Tampa Bay during pre-season, and West Ham were training at the Rowdies training complex. We got the opportunity to speak to 1 or 2 members of the backroom staff, and of course, a lot of them were tight with David Moyes, and we asked them, I'm not going to name any names who we spoke to, we asked them, what's it been like? And they kind of told the story. It's a lot stricter. It's not as much fun. Not so much being more professional, because David Moyes was, but you've got to have a balance here, have you not? Between players wanting to come to work, wanting to enjoy themselves, wanting to play for the manager, and the whole staff being happy. Not just someone coming in with draconian messages and methods and kind of head teacher methods of being strict. That's Lopetegui, I get that. But has he got to maybe just give and take a little bit more and not make it so regimental?
Absolutely. Part of the body language and the way he's talked to the players, this is going to be now a key moment, not just for him as a manager, but for the rest of the season and for this team right now. How is he going to approach this game afterwards, right? What is the message going to be? Is this going to be, nonstop video and pointing out every little mistake individually and as a team, right? There's time for that. If I were Lopetegui, as you just said, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, because you do have to tell the players what went wrong. But after that, it has to be encouraging because it's too much at stake. Getting rid of David Moyes, I thought it was time. He's done a tremendous job both times that he's been at West Ham, no doubt about that. But I think this team, after seeing how much money they've spent this summer and what their aspirations are, right, Mark, you can tell that maybe you need that manager from the next level. So I didn't have a major problem with David Moyes going. But yes, Lopetegui here, a fine line in the next couple matches in where he as a manager and this team goes, because I think decisions will have to be made very, very quickly.